ultimately, it's shown my son that his birth didn't ruin my life.
Sport's always been a big passion of mine, but I know that it's not that way for everybody. A whopping 64% of girls quit sport by the time they hit puberty, and 1 in 3 midlife women are not getting enough exercise. So why? Well, outdated gender stereotype, periods, childbirth, bladder weakness, which affects 1 in 3 women over the age of 35. The list goes on. And that's why The Sun have teamed up with Tenor, and we're going to be speaking to some inspirational women about their relationships with sport so that we can work it out. Gillian Castle, the first person with a stoma to swim solo across the English Channel. So Jill, you swam the English Channel. Wow.
I had been doing a lot of awareness about living with a stoma and about childbirth injuries. And somebody said to me, have you ever thought about swimming the Channel? I thought, actually, that's a really, really good way of raising awareness of women injured in childbirth.
So have you always been a strong swimmer then?
Now, I've always been a strong swimmer, but when I decided that I was going to swim the Channel, the most I'd ever swum in my life was two miles in the pool. And of course, the English Channel is 21 miles.
I mean, I didn't even know that. That's incredible.
Well, I didn't know that either.
21 miles?
Yeah, 21 miles.
You got the stoma due to an injury?
Yes.
In childbirth?
Yeah, that's right. I gave birth to my child at the end of October 2011. He actually came 6 weeks early. As a result of that, of course, he was quite small. He was about 4 pounds 7 ounces. He got stuck in the birthing canal. His heart rate dropped and they had to use Neville Barnes forceps to pull him out. They saved his life, but unfortunately left me with a lot of trauma and a lot of damages. When I had collapsed in the corridor, I remember telling the male midwife that I couldn't take it anymore. And he said to me, well, maybe it's your perception of the pain. I went back to my hospital bed. During the examination, they found out the extent of my injuries. I also had an extremely rare complication called a rectovaginal fistula. So a fistula is an abnormal connection in the body, and mine was between the rectum and the vagina. So I was pooing out of my vagina. This led to an enormous perineal abscess, which had burst, and that's why I had collapsed in the corridor. They then said to me, right, well, the only thing that we can do now in order to allow this area to heal is to fit you with a stoma. So a stoma is a bowel diversion surgery, which is when they cut into your abdomen, also cut into your bowel. They bring out a section of your bowel, which for me is the large bowel, because I've got what you call a colostomy. And there's part of the bowel which is on your abdomen is called the stoma, because stoma is actually a Greek word for mouth. And out of the stoma comes your waste, comes your poo, and that goes into a stoma bag. But I've actually brought an example of a stoma bag. This is the kind of stoma bag that I wear.
So how has having it changed your life?
I fitted my life around the stoma, but now I make the stoma fit around my life. And I think that's a really important distinction to make. Of course, it's led to me swimming the Channel. It led to me raising £50,000 for my charity, Chameleon Buddies. It's shown to people who've got a stoma that, yes, you can swim. It's for everybody. But ultimately, it's shown my son that his birth didn't ruin my life. And that, to me, is my life purpose. He overheard me doing a radio interview about my story. And he said to me, so if I hadn't have been born, you wouldn't have had the stoma. And I said, yeah, that's right. And he said, so would you rather not have had me? Because then you wouldn't have had the stoma. And I said, no. Has having a stoma ever stopped me from doing anything? And he said, no, you're crazy. And then he went straight back to his PlayStation. And I thought, well, there you go, you've done it.
You did mention that you've done work to raise awareness of injury that women sustain in childbirth. And I do feel like it's something that's been talked about more, but not enough.
When it first happened to me, I didn't know anyone that had been injured in childbirth. I didn't even know there was such a thing as childbirth trauma. It's a very lonely place to find yourself. Now it's certainly talked about an awful lot more. They have to also know that their life is not necessarily over when this kind of things happens.
How can we be more open and squash the stigma?
We normalise it by talking about it. If you keep exposing yourself to something, it becomes not such a big deal.
Well, I think you're an inspiration. So what's the next challenge then?
In October, we are climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak in Kenya. There's 20 of us. 9 of us have got stomas. 4 of us have got a traumatic birth history. Yeah, it's going to be epic.
Can I come?
Yeah, of course you can.
Thanks, Jill.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode. Please do stay tuned for the next one.